Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Shred Sessions. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today I have a very special guest. I have Nashville-based guitarist Andy Jones. He's a Broadway warrior, so he knows just about every song ever recorded or is expected to know. But I'm really excited to have this guy on the show. Andy, thanks for doing this, man.
Thanks for having me, man. It's really looking forward to doing this.
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
We actually were going to do this podcast a few weeks ago, but we ran into a bit of a problem. Can you tell everybody what happened, man?
Yeah. So, we like Drew was just saying, we were going to do this a couple weeks ago, and went out to go run a couple errands a couple days before, actually, and my car was gone. It had been stolen.
So you go outside to the parking lot at your place, and it's just
gone.
No car.
Yeah, there's a broken window. I'm going, oh my God, what the heck's going on here?
Another car had a broken window?
No, yeah, it was actually for mine.
Oh,
so yeah, I found that out kind of later because
yeah.
it was one of those moments too where I'm like, wait, is this where I parked? Because I'm real bad at that. I'm like, okay, oh yeah, it was over here. But I went out and the window to my car had been busted out, and evidently with those, it was to those kind of cars, if you bust out the back window, the alarm doesn't go off.
Oh.
So they just snagged it, ended up finding the security footage from the apartment complex and everything, and still haven't gotten it back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of alarming.
Yeah, that's terrible, dude.
Yeah, man, it was
Do you
rough.
feel like Nashville is more dangerous these days than it was maybe 5-10 years ago?
100%. 100%, man. It was, sorry. I'm just
no, do
water.
your thing, man.
Excuse me. Yeah, even since I've been there 5-6 years, it's changed so much. Being in the downtown environment, you hear so many stories of, people getting roofied. Things
I've heard about that too.
It's happened to people I know, and again, cars down there getting broken into, people getting held up. I mean, it's getting rough. It's like the Wild West out there. It really is, man. It's a lot rougher than when I first moved up here.
Wow. What year did you move here, man?
2018.
Okay.
August 4th, 2018.
And so where are you? You're like an East Coast guy, right?
Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, everybody thinks I'm from New York for some reason. I don't know why.
Are you Italian? Maybe that's why.
My dad was adopted from Germany, but he never knew his real parents, so I'm kind of like an alien. I don't know. I don't know exactly what I am, but who knows?
Gosh, man. So what made you want to move to Nashville from Florida, or what part of Florida were you?
I'm from a town called Ocala. Our claim to fame is horse farms, and A Day to Remember's from there originally. Yeah, that big band. So, my dad lived up here for a while. He's more of a singer-songwriter type guy. And we visited, probably 9 years ago, and I just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
But even then, it was so different back then. I went to Robert's Western World with him and saw all the chicken picking stuff. I'm like, this is insane. Really fell in love with that style, and I was just like, man, Florida's not cutting it for me, and it seems like there's going to be a lot of opportunity up here, and just even if I don't have a gig, at least I'll be in the environment and have that energy around it. It'll make me, at least I'll come out a better guitar player.
Right.
And then I went back to Florida for a bit, taught for many years at Guitar Center in my hometown, and saved up as much money as I could and just moved up.
Nice, man.
Didn't really know anybody and just kind of went for it.
That's awesome, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, you gotta just follow your heart, I think.
100%.
I know it sounds kind of lame, but you just gotta do what you felt like you were put on this earth to do, which I think for you is playing guitar, man, and really pursuing that, right?
I totally agree, man. And I always looked at it like, we got one shot. Even if I don't make it, at least I tried.
Right.
I didn't want to be older going, man, I wish I did that, and what if? That's the thing that scares me the most is what ifs.
Right. You got to at least try it, man.
100%.
Yeah. Well, dude, I was going to say a few months ago, I think this was last year, I was out on Broadway, and you the band that you play with, what is the name of the artist that you play with?
So our front person is Monte Mater. The band is Monte and The Monsters, though. And that really came together through a mutual friend of ours, Logan Hatcher.
Yeah.
He and I started talking a while ago, and we had tried to put together a couple projects, and it just fell through. You know how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
It's all that. But then she came along, got in touch with me, and then it just started from there. And we've kind of just been doing our own thing ever since. No country, or maybe like one country song if somebody's nice enough.
So your band, Monte and The Monsters, you guys specialize in like rock and even like some metal?
Yeah, so we do a lot of rock, 90s hip hop, new metal, basically a bunch of stuff you wouldn't think is coming from Nashville, but it kind of is now.
Right.
Because now it's like everybody that's coming to visit, grew up listening to more of that stuff than, let's say, George Strait or something.
Yeah.
Nothing against country. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff there too, but it's just not what we do.
Yeah. No, dude, I was blown away by you guys. Like, my wife and I, we requested that you play Tom Sawyer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
We sent like $20 or something like that. And sure enough, like a few songs later, you guys play Tom Sawyer like note for note perfectly, which blew my mind.
Right.
Like I thought maybe you would say like, oh man, like we're not really prepped for that tune. But you got Drew Meckler on the drums, who's a Rush freak.
Oh yeah.
And to my surprise, he is the one who sang the song.
Yeah.
So he sang Tom Sawyer and played drums, and it like you would think, oh, like I'm sure someone could try doing that.
Right.
But this guy freaking nailed it. And did it really well. It did the song justice, and like everyone in the crowd was just like vibing, because that song is iconic.
Oh yeah, he just likes to make things harder on himself, I guess.
Dude.
Let's take an easy song like Tom Sawyer and do that. But no, it's always a blast playing with him, man.
It was impressive, man.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know you mentioned Logan. Logan and I have done some like fusion stuff together. We opened for Virgil Donati years ago, which we kind of put this hodgepodge band together. It was like some of my original tunes and then some of my buddy Josiah Baker's original songs. We put this weird band together and opened for Virgil. So.
Was that at the end?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I think it's probably when he and I had first started talking. Was around that time, something like that, man. It's hard to keep track ever since 2020 and COVID. I don't even know what year it is anymore. It's insane, let alone what day it is.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but yeah, that show was pretty interesting, man. Like Virgil's kit took up like the whole stage.
Yeah,
pretty small stage at the end.
It's a cool club though, man.
And it's just amazing watching top tier musicians like that, like Andre Neary.
Yep. I was going to say, was Andre in the band?
Yeah, Andre was in the band. Junior Brugahina, I think I'm saying that right, on bass, who's just a monster.
Not familiar.
Really? He's like the best Brazilian bass player ever.
Wow.
Well, really just, he's got to be in the top 10 in the world or top 5.
Some of these guys are so good, man. It's just atrocious.
Yeah, like Chris Clark on keyboards.
Okay.
It was an insane show. That was 2017, I want to say.
Wow.
But
maybe Logan and I were talking after that. Then see again, it's like I don't know what year it is.
Yeah, dude, that was a wild time.
Yeah,
but yeah, man, talk us through like what your early guitar playing was like as a kid. Like, what made you want to play guitar?
Yeah,
what was the scene like as you were kind of getting better? Like, playing in your hometown. Like, talk about the bands that you were in, and you know, maybe get into some of your favorite players and people that inspired you.
Well, we'll be here all day if we talk about my favorite players, but I'll throw a couple in there. But so I started playing when I was 13. I got a guitar for my 12th birthday. Didn't touch it for a year. I think that's kind of a typical kid thing to do. It's like, I'll get around to it. And then, my dad played, but he's more of a finger picker, like really cool stuff. But I'm more of a metal guy. Even back then, I always liked harder rock. But, a year goes by, and I'm 13. I'm like, maybe I'll pick this thing up. It's just sitting in the corner. What the heck? At that time, just hanging out with my friends, causing mayhem, all that good stuff. And I picked it up and just fell in love with it. I don't know why. I mean, it was just, I was so just attracted to it. And I'm like, even though it didn't sound good, you know how it is when you first pick up guitar. It's like, it's just, but you get good. It's like, oh man, I could do a D chord now. Or, oh man, I don't know what it was. It just pulled me in, and I just started, I kept moving forward with it and moving forward. And at that time too, I was starting to listen to a lot of different music. I always tell people, one soundtrack that got me into guitar was the one for Vice City, Grand Theft Auto.
Okay.
Because it takes place in the 80s, and one of the channels on there is all like the hard rock stuff.
Oh,
so
cool.
It's like all of a sudden I'm hearing like stuff like Bark at the Moon by Ozzy.
Yeah.
Ozzy in general, and like David Lee Roth with Steve Vai playing Yankee Rose and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, this is cool.
Dude, that record is wild. Dude. Eat 'em and Smile.
Oh, what a lineup. You know, Roth came back for blood with that lineup against Van Halen. But and again, it was just kind of around that time, just hearing music on the radio I really liked. I was always a music fan. But when I started as a guitar player, once I was able to start playing that stuff, then it just all snowballed.
Yeah.
You know, when I could play, you know, Smells Like Teen Spirit, oh my God, I'm playing this song I like. And it just kind of snowballed from there, took lessons in my hometown, and, you know, wasn't really playing out yet. I really didn't do that until high school.
Did you have like the same guitar teacher when you were a kid, or did you like kind of switch teachers?
I had one. There's a really, really good music store in my hometown called Sound Exchange Music. And Johnny Gargano is the owner, and he was my teacher, and he's like a really, really good like jazz player. And he is from Canada originally. He played in a band in the 80s called Frozen Ghost, which they had some pretty good success. And Phil X was also in that band, if you're familiar with Phil.
No kidding, bro.
That was like his first, I think, kind of foray out there. So it's amazing how small the world is.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Man. The music world too.
Oh my God. Yeah. But so I took lessons with Johnny for a couple years, and at that time too, I was learning through the magazines. You know, Guitar World. If you're familiar with Guitar Techniques,
dude, that was my favorite, man.
That I tell people to this day that was the best one, because you have
Guthrie Govan lessons, bro.
Dude, before I think he probably played in Asia at that time, but he wasn't like, you know, Gandalf of guitar like he is now, playing for Hans Zimmer. And they also had Dave Kilminster in there, who plays for Roger Waters, and he's had that gig for years. But also, I don't remember if it was Guitar Techniques or Total Guitar, but Charlie Griffiths was a teacher in there who plays for Haken. So you had all these guys that now are like monster play. They were monsters then, but you know, they have this kind of fame now and everything. But I really taught myself through Guitar World, Guitar Techniques, a little bit of Total Guitar. I was all about guitar magazines. And then at this time too, that's when YouTube started creeping in. It was probably there, but I didn't know about it.
Dude, I have so many fond memories of going through guitar magazines, and I haven't looked at one in a long time. In fact, I have like my all-time favorite magazine somewhere over here. Here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Guitar World 2005.
First issue I got. Was
this
that
one right
there. Yep. First one.
I lost this and then I had to rebuy it, but this has the Yngwie Malmsteen Paganini's Fifth in it. Did you ever learn that?
A little bit. I didn't have the patience.
Kerry King on the back. This particular issue at the time was like the most jam-packed thing. I was a huge like G3 fan, you know.
Same.
Vi, Satch, and Malmsteen, and I saw that tour.
Jeez.
I wasn't so much into Zach back in the day, or Alexi Lehu, but I have a huge appreciation for those guys today.
Same.
But man, that issue, like, man, guitar magazines in general were like a huge part of playing guitar, you know, well, all the way back to the 70s. But for me, you know, starting in like 2000, 2001 is when I started playing guitar. And then you just ordered a magazine. You know, this is pre-internet being, you got on internet to talk on AOL, right? Or whatever to your friends. But it wasn't, you didn't have video, like they didn't have the bandwidth to host video yet. But
remember that came with a CD-ROM?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Where all that, like the lessons and stuff were on and everything.
The CD that came with it, and that was just awesome, man. In fact, I had a guitar teacher and mentor years ago. His name is Corey Bonnet, and he was in like a progressive metal band that was fantastic, man. And I never got to see his band play, but he was working on a record for a long time, and I listened to his like recordings, and it was just the most insane stuff at the time. But he gave me his entire like guitar magazine collection.
No kidding.
And it was like probably like 500 magazines, man. Wow. So, and he gave me like the filing cabinets, and he had all of the CD-ROMs that you're talking about were in like these, you know, CD cases.
Oh yeah.
Like that thick. And there was like volumes of those that you would like pull out. And I moved those magazines like 2 or 3 times. You know, I brought them all down to Nashville, and I had, you know, rented a couple different places. And by like the third time that it came to move, I was like, I can't move these again. It's crazy. So I sold them to someone in town for like a few $100.
Sure.
Some guy came over and just offered me cash for all of them, and I regret that, man.
Yeah.
I wish I had those back because they're so cool.
They really are. And you go back and look through some of those, it's like, oh my God, the newest piece of gear, the Digitech RP200. It's like, we've come so far.
Dude.
It's like, what is that crap? You know, but it was cool at the time, you know?
Yep.
But it's just amazing how far everything's come. You know, magazines are no longer viable, and it's, well, I shouldn't say they're no longer viable. They're still out there.
You could still get them.
Yeah. But now it's like, if you want to learn something, you can just go on YouTube and have somebody show you. Like, if you want to learn how to play, like, I don't know, Paul Gilbert. Paul teaches. He's like right there showing everything. It's just so amazing.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that's why some of these kids are getting so good.
Yeah.
Like these super young kids, it's just, man, there's some of these kids that are just scary good.
They're improving so quickly,
for my
man.
gig.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's a real thing, man.
Crazy.
Yeah, I miss those magazines, man, and going through those, and you had an actual tangible thing to look at, and like I don't know about you, man, but I read like every word of every page.
Oh
like,
man, I was in it to win it with those.
Did you ever do Bet You Can't Play This?
I learned a couple of those, man.
Like the Rusty Cooley one.
Oh, I wish.
That was crazy too.
The one where he's doing that 4-note per string legato thing. It's like that might have been one of the first things I saw. I'm like, good. What the hell? He plays
like 100 notes in a split second, and then he goes, "What that was like Phrygian dominant, like 4-note per string, 7-string sequence, in fifths or what? Like he's playing like scales in fifths or whatever. Like it was just wild.
What a monster!
Yeah,
just and the speed and cleanliness of that. It just sounds like, it doesn't even sound human. It just sounds like the most alien thing out there, and it's just like, wow, my God, I'm going back to some AC/DC or Ozzy stuff,
Right. So dude, you were getting good at guitar. You're learning from magazines.
Mm-hmm.
Did you start a band or join a band in your hometown?
Yeah, that kind of came about. Gosh, I was probably a sophomore or junior in high school. Kind of met some like-minded guys, and we started a pop-punk hardcore band. And I wasn't familiar with that music at all, but they saw me jam. They're like, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this. Would you like to do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. What do I have to lose?" And that was a really, really good experience, man. And kind of playing music with your buddies and everything, and learning to write.
Yeah.
Just learning how to play in a band. That was like one of the, I recommend that to everybody. Get together with people and play and just write and just have fun with it. That was the seed that was planted in where I was like, man, I want to keep doing this to some degree, as the future goes on. But yeah, and we did some gigs in my hometown and opened up for some people. There was a really cool all ages club in my hometown, which my hometown's real small, but it was an old bank. It was called the Capitol. And they hosted a lot of hardcore fests, and we played those. And I'd never seen like moshing like that before, like the slam dancing. I'm like, this is nuts, I'm like, oh my God. I was more of like
nuts, man.
I'm a non-combatant when it comes to that. I'm in the back, I'm in the back, just kind of like going, oh, this band's really good. Don't hit me.
Yeah,
I'm not about that.
I didn't realize how. I mean, I understand like what moshing is and what I've been around a lot of it.
Sure.
But once you get seriously hurt at a show, you realize kind of how dumb it is.
Dude.
And like a lot of people that go to shows, I don't know about a lot of them, but I would imagine there's a lot of people that don't have health insurance and they're in their moshing. And I guess it's like it's a thing that can make you feel really alive, and the intensity of the music is matched with bodily movement and pushing people around and getting the crowd going. Like I think it's great from an energy standpoint.
Yeah,
but the risk kind of sucks, man.
Risk versus reward. I'm all about that. And again, going to those shows, and my buddy got his nose broken at one of them from just a stray fist. I'm like,
you got to go to the hospital,
man. Like,
yeah,
ow.
Yeah, ow.
and again, I've always loved music like that. I've always loved that extreme kind of stuff, and I love the energy it brings and all that. But I'm not gonna be in the middle of a mosh pit. And then you get an element of like guys that like to go and like crowd kill. Which, come on, guys.
Yeah,
come on.
The real hardcore fans will tell you like, oh, it's part of the show. Like you shouldn't have came to the show if you were worried about crowd killing. It's like, well, how do you get more people to like this style of music? If, hey, come to the show, man, and you get punched in the face, you get hurt,
no
it's
thanks.
Not fun.
No thanks, man.
Yeah.
But gosh, I'm all over the place. Sorry, but kind of going back, man. We played a lot of shows. We ended up playing some Warped Tour dates going into my senior year of high school, which was a lot of fun. Playing the Ernie Ball stage, so we were on the same stage as guys like Protest the Hero and all that.
My gosh,
which was
crazy band,
which was nuts. I'm like a junior in high school, and I'm getting to meet all the guys in Dillinger Escape Plan, hang out with them, and it's like I became a huge fan of those guys on that tour because getting to watch them and how intense.
Oh, Dillinger is one of the most insane bands of all time ever.
Oh my god! And I'd heard their music before, and I was like, my ears couldn't wrap around it at the time, just because it's not typical. But when I went and saw them live, I'm like, I get it now. Like, this is the most intense thing I've ever seen. They were touring for Ironworks at the time, so they had Gil Sharon on drums, and man, it was just amazing. Saw As I Lay Dying, before the
before
issues.
Tim lost his mind.
Yeah, so I'm dating myself a little bit there, but again, got to meet a lot of those guys. But of course, like everything, it's like, man, the band ended up falling apart, and we kind of went our separate ways. I started doing some other gigs in town, doing more cover stuff with some other set of friends. I guess that was really cool because like it seemed like all my friends really played. Mm-hmm. So I was always in bands with like buddies.
Yeah.
So it was always just like a good time and hanging out, and kind of got to a crossroads after a few years where it's like, hey, we have this opportunity to go to Vegas and form a band with some other people and it looks like there's some traction behind the project. I'm like, I've heard that before, guys. I think I'm going to go to music school.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what led me to Atlanta Institute of Music. Well,
okay.
Atlanta Institute of Music and Media now, but at the time it was AIM. And I've heard
of that before.
Great school. I heard about it because I was wanting to get an education, but it costs a lot of money, and I was looking at Berkeley, which was insane. I'm like, my God. And then I was looking at MI also off on the West Coast, and which would have been awesome. But for me and where I was at, AIM was my best choice. And Tosin Abasi is a graduate from there, from Animals as Leaders, and I was really getting into him. I'm like, man, hey, he went there. He's a really good player. Maybe I'll go check it out. And that's what led me to of course, I'm probably leaving out a few things here, but that's what led me to kind of get away from those guys. They went and did their thing. Still, we're all friends to this day. And then I ended up going to AIM and really improving my playing and getting an education in music, which was, to this day, I tell people, best decision I ever made was getting an education in music.
No, I think there's a lot of talk out there around like, oh, music school's a ripoff. You should learn, like I think today is probably a lot different than it was when you were looking at schools. For me, like college wasn't even a choice. Like you had to go to college if you wanted to like make it in this world. Like that was what
man.
Parents and church people and everybody was telling you, like, you got to go to college. If you don't, you're just gonna, you're gonna be a loser or whatever.
That's rough.
So I went to Northern Illinois University and I intended to study guitar there, but I didn't get into the program, and it turned out at the time the guy running the program, his name's Fareed Haq. He only took like a couple guitar players a year. So I auditioned with like 50 other guitar players, and we each got to play for like 30 seconds, and like, of course I didn't get in, like,
well, it's like who would,
there were dudes with like full on beards, and like I was just like this little pipsqueak. Like I didn't have like the self-confidence at the time. But it's just like, man, like, couldn't you just take on more students, and like it's the same. I don't know. I look back on that time. So I ended up studying journalism, and maybe that's why I'm doing a podcast today, because of that. But
everything happens for a reason, man.
Yeah,
You know?
but I did end up taking private lessons with Fareed for a while.
Okay.
Doing some classical stuff and some
Interesting.
jazz.
Nice.
But it just wasn't a good. I kind of heard some bad stories about studying music, guitar at Northern, so I ended up going a
Really?
different way. Yeah.
Interesting.
But I think that, yeah, it is more expensive to go to school, but if you're gonna go to school, you might as well learn something that you care about. And I think things have changed so much with the whole college thing. I don't even know if I would advise like a high school kid to go to college anymore.
There's
Like,
it seems like there's a lot of just extra just crap to deal with, when you go to college now. And I feel, again, you hit the nail on the head. Follow what you're passionate about. Go to college, study something you want to actually study, And I got to be honest too. My parents were always really supportive, which was amazing. They're always
Yeah.
like, "Hey, if you want to go do that, we want you to be happy. You go do that, but give it your all."
yeah, and another option would be like if you're a graduating high school senior, go to a community college, take some classes maybe, get a job so you know what it's like to work, to like show
Big.
up to work every day and listen to podcasts on different careers. And like there's so much like information out there, like, and there's so many people to learn from. You could just listen to like several different podcasts like every day and just make a choice on what direction you want to go.
Amazing.
If you're not sure, because I know there's a lot of kids that are like forced to go to school, but they're not sure what they want to do with their life yet. And I think that's totally okay, but just take some time to investigate different disciplines, man. Like,
Agreed.
Agreed.
And I think too with that, it's just, it's okay to not have the answer to everything.
Right.
Take every day, learn a little bit, and improve. And I definitely feel like that. It's like, oh my God, I'm not where I want to be. Well, it's all about just moving in the right direction. And I couldn't imagine being a kid in today's day and age with the amount of information out there. It's overwhelming. I mean, I'm 33, soon to be 34. I'm like, it's too much. Like,
it
my
has to be
God.
curated. Like, I think having a mentor is like one of the best things that you could do for yourself.
Yep.
Like a mentor, maybe in a field that you're interested in, or just like a wise person in your life.
Yeah.
And maybe that's okay if that's a parent, but probably not a parent. Like somebody that can like look into your life and your situation and give you some like sound advice.
Absolutely.
Like I think that would be a wise thing to do. Sounds like my wife just got home.
Yeah.
So
Either that or the dogs are on the move.
yeah, well they will be in a second here.
Oh man.
So you ended up going to music school
And graduated.
What was the experience? Yeah, congrats, man. What was
Thank
that
you.
experience like? Were you just jamming with people all the time, or?
Yeah, so it was really, really cool. It was a little bit of a smaller school. Our class was pretty small, but it was just, I came in knowing a lot, but when I did my audition, I was like, okay, I don't know a lot, which was great, and I was just a sponge. So it was very much like Musicians Institute. We had a lot of different classes. There was a little bit of classical guitar involved. Excuse me, a lot of reading, which was cool, and it was a very well-rounded curriculum. Small school, a lot of really cool classes of like performance. I think we had like 3 or 4 performing classes.
Wow.
So that was like you're on stage playing for your peers and the teachers and all of that. And we had a really cool class. What was it called? I'll call it chart reading, where we came in. It's like, okay, what are we doing today? We'd have singers, bassists and drummers would be there, and they'd hand us a chart and be like, oh, okay, we're going to play this today. And you had to get up, you read over it a little bit, then you'd have to back people up. So it was a great, like, hey, think on your feet kind of thing. And it might be a blues one day, it might be Pride and Joy, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then, the next week it's a Steely Dan tune.
Oh,
and it's
wow.
like, uh-oh.
I was going to ask you like what kind of tunes that they
Yeah.
would have you play, but that's a pretty wide swath of things.
Yeah. So, and I remember looking over, what was that one? Ricky, Don't Lose That Number.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh
Does
boy.
that have some weird changes in it or something?
Oh my God. Yeah. It's all, triad over bass kind of stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's like, oh my God, and of course you got my teacher from Eastern Europe screaming at you if you mess up. He was great though, man. But that was really good training because he's like, if you got lost, be like, no, it's right here. It's right. and that kind of prepped you for the real world a little bit. You know, it's like, hey, if somebody's going to yell at you, you got to be able to go through it. And he was a great guy, but he was just very, very intense, man.
Yeah,
you know?
well, he probably prepped you for what it's like being on stage. Anything could happen. You know?
Some of the stuff I remember to this day, which is going back over 10 years, was from him.
Wow.
Just because of how he would go about it, you know?
That's so cool, man.
It really is.
Yeah, having great music teachers is the best, man.
Yeah.
People that actually care about it and want their students to know what it's going to be like. And
absolutely.
I've had some teachers in my life. I've had some great ones, and then I've had some that just like kind of babied me, I guess. But then when you're a kid, you don't know that you're being babied.
Yeah.
So then you get out into a real playing situation and you just get your ass handed to you, and you're like, wow, like I had no idea that this was going to happen.
And the funny thing is also, his name was Anar, and he was from Azerbaijan, and he was also the classical guitar teacher. That's what he grew up doing over there. So he, from as a kid, was a classical guitarist.
Wow.
And he would do the class, and I mean, we would all be playing this piece of music slow, and if we messed up, he'd be like, "Start over." And I had a friend that used to hide behind me because I was a pretty good reader. And he wasn't. He was more of a blues rock
like you're
guy.
reading notation or charts?
Like
black dots?
Notation.
Yeah.
So it's like classical music. Doing a lot of like working out of the Christopher Parkening books.
Oh my gosh.
So and it's like playing stuff so slow, and it was so great. But about halfway through school, he decided to move back, and we had another teacher come in who I don't remember his name off the top of my hand, but he was so polar opposite. He was like Mr. Laid Back, kind of a hippie guy. Oh, you missed a note. That's okay. Where Anar, if we missed a note, he's like, stop. Like we're starting again. I mean, it was like going from like, like the military to like kind of laid back. I don't mean this in a bad way, but did you ever watch Beavis and Butthead?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember their teacher, Mr. Van Driesen, kind of the hippie guy?
I didn't watch that show
Beavis
that much.
And Butthead,
just a couple.
Just like real, like he was really laid back, but that's kind of how he was. So it's like going from like Mr. Intense Eastern Europe, like don't miss a note, to like it's okay, get it next time, man. And I remember going like, oh my god, like this is so different. It was such a shell shock experience, but it's just kind of one of those funny, moments in my history where I'll always remember that going, my God, that was so different.
Wow. Yeah. That's fascinating, man.
Mm-hmm.
So you graduated from music school and then you moved back to Ocala?
I did. And that's I kind of kick myself for doing that, but again, everything happens for a reason. At the time, I had a band, and I had a lot of good connections with in the music industry. I got to know a guy who was trying to put a project together years before for Atlantic Records. He was a British guy. He's since retired from the business, but if you're familiar with a British singer named Craig David, he was his manager.
Okay.
And Craig, I think, is just really kind of known really well in Europe. But I had a band together, and he was really wanting to push us. And I moved back from school, and I'm like, hey, let's get this thing going. And the other guys just drug their feet, and we missed that opportunity. So that was like the first time I was like, dang, man. Because they were more interested in going out and partying and, hanging with girls and stuff, typical guy stuff. But I'm like, guys, it's right here. Like, I'm dangling this in front of you. Like, we can do this. And that fell through. So that was the first time I was like, just that first big wound to experience as a musician, to be almost right. And who knows what would have happened, But we had that, I had that contact, and it's like, what are you guys doing? So I ended up staying there, and that's when around that time I started teaching guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't necessarily have Nashville in mind yet, but I'm like, well, I'll just kind of see what happens down here. And
dude, what was it like teaching guitar at Guitar Center? Like, did you have a full schedule? Like, what did it look like? Was it a total nightmare? Like, what was it like, dude?
I really enjoyed it. That's really where I developed a passion for teaching. All types of people too. I taught a lot of kids, which scared me to death at first. But thank God they had that curriculum book, because that was like, that saved me. My schedule at that time went from like, pretty moderate to insane. I was teaching probably between 40 and 50 people a week down there.
Dude, that's impressive, man.
I was pulling my hair out. I was like, oh my God. But at the time I wasn't gigging.
Mm-hmm.
So it was okay. I'm like, well, or I shouldn't say I wasn't gigging, but I was gigging infrequently.
Yeah.
And so
that's pretty rare these days.
Yeah.
And I've been in Nashville for like almost 15 years, and
wow.
The most students I had, I think, was during the pandemic. I had like maybe 20 or 25 students, which was massive. But everywhere I've taught at, man, it's like 13 people, 6 people, 8 students,
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny you mentioned that, because when I was teaching in my hometown in Elgin, in Elgin, Illinois, I taught guitar at this kind of family-owned lessons place, and it was great, man. I had 40 students, and I was making money, man. I could buy gear.
Yeah.
I could get Starbucks every day. It was like pretty cool back then. Of course, I didn't have like a ton of bills at the time. I was like still living at home, but
same.
Like, I have just been really, honestly, kind of frustrated with like the teaching world, like in Nashville, like having worked for School of Rock, Mobile Music Academy. Like I worked, I haven't taught at Guitar Center, but and I want to get your take on School of Rock and teaching too. But it surprises me. I'm like, we're in the guitar capital of the world. There's tons of money here. There's tons of families that have moved here.
Yep.
Maybe people just don't want to learn guitar like they did, 15, 20 years ago.
Well, I think the problem is that with Nashville it is such a hub. It is such a capital. What I've noticed is at least with some of the guitar centers outside of the city, a lot of people get busier teaching. It's like the environment's more like a small town environment. And I think that's why I did really well in my hometown, is that it was, one, my manager was phenomenal. My manager, Dee, she could pull in people like you've never seen before. And,
wow.
And I mean, everybody that was teaching at that time had, between 20 and 40 students. So it's like
that's how it should be, man.
Agreed. And I think that small town environment has something to do with it. There's a lot more kids, and again, in my hometown, a lot of retired people. Hey, maybe I'll learn guitar, and I'll go take some lessons from this guy.
I think it's like maybe it's a guitarist to non-guitarist ratio. There's too many guitarists here.
Oh, dude, they're really.
That's probably why it is. But
I think that has something to do with it. There's so many options, and my buddy plays. I'll get you hooked up with lessons with so and so. It's so different, because even what I will say is, Guitar Center, you could say what you want about it. It enabled me to move up here.
Mm-hmm.
I transferred my job, so I came to town with a teaching job, and it was very different. It took me a little while to get students, but I had a few, and I had a smaller apartment, and things were good. But so I'll always like Guitar Center for that. It enabled me to move up here
I love going. Who doesn't play guitar and love going in there and just seeing all the broken guitars and just the random, you never know what you're gonna see in there.
The one
it's hilarious,
here,
man.
Dude, it's so random. The one here, off of Thompson, like the main hub, that's when I taught at.
It's a big store.
Dude, you go in there, you'll see some gems sometimes. That's where I got my RG 550.
Oh, killer.
Like $900, one little nick on it. I'm like,
what I was referencing before, the thing that really gets me about Guitar Center is you've got these like, middle-priced guitars, anywhere from like $800 to like $2,500 guitars. They're hanging up on these racks, and they don't have the proper padding, on the guitar hanger. Oh, God. And so the headstock gets thrashed, and it's, and I'm not trying to like, actually I have a buddy that works there, so whatever. Like, it is what it is, but it's like, how come they don't, that should just be someone's job to like buy new guitar holders, to make sure that they don't get messed up.
And you think they would have some sort of insurance on that, or just a bunch of them in the back, just because it's like, hey, let's go out there and replace these. Or another gripe I have too, it's like the guitars never play that well. It's like the action's so far off the neck. It's like,
if they set them up better and tuned them every day, they probably sell more guitars.
Absolutely.
That makes sense to me.
You go in there and it's like, oh, I'm going to pick up some hot rod shred guitar like a Jackson or an Ibanez, and it's like, man, I could shoot arrows with this action. What the heck? It's like, why isn't this is a shred guitar, guys? It's not a blues man instrument necessarily, but it's like,
right.
Just set it up, man. You'd sell more. Absolutely right. Just take care of your stuff.
That's my take on that, man. Yeah. Do you see a lot of people using HX stomps on Broadway? Is it kind of like what do you see down there gear wise?
Man, a lot of Line 6 stuff like that. I'll say this too, a lot of Boss katanas.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just a good kind of cheap go-to amp. It takes pedals well, but a lot of my buddies are HX stomp guys. I had an HX XL, but it just kind of blew up.
Yeah.
The button stopped working. I'm like,
I've heard that from multiple people about the XL. It's like they didn't make them as good as they made the smaller ones or something.
I don't know what it was.
True, but
and I will say it probably got stepped on quite a bit. That definitely lived up to its name was Stomp with me, but I didn't understand snapshots at the time. So maybe the buttons got a little too much stomping going on it. So it's now that I understand snapshots and all that, I really want to invest in another HX Stomp.
Yeah, they're great. I'll probably always have that. I mean, I've recorded tons of music with just that little box there.
Are you using that for like amp modeling also, or is it just effects?
Amp modeling.
Cool.
Yeah, but in the past I have presets in there that if I play through a tube amp, I can just run it.
That's awesome.
That's my delay, or my chorus and delay. I can't recommend the Airstep thing enough. Like for $100 or a couple $100, I think, for the one that has MIDI, you can control your HX Stomp like you wouldn't believe, man. Like you can do your snapshots, your preset changes, tap tempo. You got 5 buttons and you can program them to do anything.
It's insane
that you want. So
that's so crazy.
I definitely want to talk more about gear and Broadway, but first I want to bring us up to the point where you're teaching at Guitar Center in Nashville. You've got your apartment and everything. You're kind of new to town.
Yeah.
How did you get into the Broadway circuit? Like, what made you want to do that, man?
It took me a good while to figure out what I wanted to do here. I played in a couple different bands that weren't playing on Broadway, mostly country stuff, which I know is odd. Looking at me in my Nosferatu hoodie, I did play with a telly for a good while. And I do love chicken picking.
Yeah.
It's something I love that style, but I think I started going down on Broadway to check it out. I was going with maybe a couple buddies. We're like, hey, let's go check out the stage, or let's go check this out and just see what it's like. and again, I initially fell in love with Broadway when I visited here with my dad, 10 years ago. I'm like, this energy I've never seen anything like it. Everybody's playing music. They look like they're having a blast. And so I moved up here. I'm like, let me see if I can pursue this and at least maybe meet some people and get my foot in the door. And I did that. In the first couple gigs I did were, I feel like this is everybody's story, were pretty rough.
Yeah.
You're new to the how it works, and didn't play my best, but I went back and I learned, and repertoire was a huge thing.
Yeah.
All these guys know so many songs, and you're constantly learning stuff. But really, I didn't start working on Broadway a lot until I started playing with Logan. Once we got that band with Monte going, and that's when gigs got consistent. And that's been my main one to this day, and it's just such a fun gig. But
yeah, you guys are killer, man.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
I know I go back to Tom Sawyer over and over again, but not every band down there can play stuff like that. I mean, you guys have done Pull Me Under by Dream Theather. You've done some pretty challenging material because you guys love that music, and the group that you've put together happens to be able to play that. And you play all the other stuff killer, really well also, but
thank you.
I just think that's amazing, man.
Yeah, we're all a bunch of prog guys at heart. It's
man.
like you can just tell. I'm playing a 7-string Universe, typical Nashville guitar. But it's just such a fun band. Like we're down to try anything. We have a 15-minute hip hop medley that we've crafted over the years that has turned into a beast of a song. I mean, it's so monstrous, and it's just I love the band because they're always like, hey, let's try this. Oh yeah, let's throw this in here. Like, it's all, we communicate so well. And that's what I love too. We've played together for so long. I just know where they're going.
Yeah.
Drew and I are like locked. It's scary how locked in as a guitar player and drummer we are. It's just, we'll hit the same thing. Not even talking about it, I'll turn to him at the middle of the gig and just scream at him, "Get out of my head!" And he'll start laughing and all this stuff. But that's
he's listening to you. He knows how to listen, right?
Exact. And that's, to me, that's the most important thing. Sometimes I'm not really even listening to what I'm doing. I'm listening to what keys are doing and drums and bass, and I'm trying to fit in and lock in and be a cohesive unit. And I will say, I think that might be the downside to Broadway, because the bands are sometimes thrown together last minute. You're not going to have that locked in tight feel necessarily. I mean, everybody's so phenomenal down there that you probably will. For me, though, if I haven't played with a drummer before, I have a hard time.
Yeah.
I'm like, where's he going? And I don't play as maybe confidently because I don't, I'm not familiar with their playing style and all that stuff.
So how many years now have you been doing this Broadway thing, man?
Ooh, let me think here. This should be year 4, if I remember correctly. Yeah, year 4. We got it together right after all the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all you do, right?
Yep.
And you pay your bills just playing guitar. I mean, that's really impressive to me, man.
Thank you, man. It was a goal, and right now it's a little hard to pay the bills just because it is slow season.
Yeah.
So
it's wintertime or coming on spring. So
God, who knows what the weather's doing? It's just been up and down. It was hot last week. Now it's cold. It's like, I heard it was going to snow at one point. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But
unpredictable weather.
Gosh, exactly. But no, and that was a goal I had moving up here, was to just basically be able to pay all my bills and to live just from playing music. I didn't want to work a normal job. And again, no disrespect to people that do that. If I had to, I absolutely would. But that was kind of my goal. I'm like, I'm coming up here. I want to be a musician. I want to be a guitar player. I want to keep a roof above my head with that instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really, so far, there's been a couple nightmare moments, but it's, that's life.
Like getting your car stolen.
Yeah,
that's always fun.
Some people could say that. But yeah, that's probably the craziest thing I've gone through since I've been up here. But what are you gonna do about it? You just got to pick up the pieces and move forward. I vented to my girlfriend. Then I'm like, okay, how do I move forward with it? And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people should remember. It's not about what happens to you. It's about how you take it and turn it and make it work for you.
Yeah, that's the best, dude.
And I'm not trying to turn into Tony Robbins here or anything like that, but that's kind of how I've always approached stuff.
Yeah.
But no, so I think some advice I would give also to musicians, especially if they're going to work here and do the Broadway thing. This just hit me. Make sure you have a savings for slow season.
Oh yeah,
that's one thing. I'm glad I kind of did unintentionally.
Maybe don't buy a snakeskin Rev during the slow season.
During the slow season, as soon as those gigs pick back up, you should absolutely buy the snakeskin Rev that I keep eyeing.
Oh, dude, it's incredible. Yeah, so that amp it's Christian Colabelli. He's played on Broadway a few times.
Oh, cool.
He's kind of new to town.
Right
on. He moved here from Syracuse, New York. He's originally from New Jersey, but he and I have been doing a lot of jazz fusion. We're kind of doing this fusion post-rock thing.
Oh, cool, man.
We're just trying to make jazz fusion more listenable.
There you go.
But still take solos,
Oh, you got to do that, yeah.
So we've been working a lot together, and he actually played in Zaphon. He played a show, the one show that we've played last November, and we borrowed some Revs. Derek from Rev hooked us up for that show, and he liked the generator so much that he ordered one.
Man.
And the workflow for recording, man, with an amp like that is just tremendous. Like we were talking about earlier, just a couple pedals into the effects loop. You got the 2 notes torpedo on the back.
Yep.
You got 4 channels. So, pristine clean to country,
bluesy
fusion,
breakup,
bluesy kind of stuff to full bore metal, and then Petrucci style lead tone on channel 4. It's pretty wild, man. That to me, that's the ultimate amp right now. I mean, there's other brands out there, of course, but
yeah, it's amazing how good everything's getting. Like just looking at that,
having
I'm like,
a built-in noise gate, digital reverb, self-attenuated. You can go down to 10 watts.
Amazing.
It's just all these feet. They put it in one amp, and I'm just like, that's the amp. But dude, what do you play through when you're downtown, man? Do you have a direct rig that you have to run, or do you bring a tube amp?
So with the band, with the Monsters, I'm running a 5150 Iconic, the EVH amp. Man, that amp, it's so good. And again, it has a built-in noise gate and some reverb.
Does it really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
The noise gate's one of those things, though, too. It's not. It's kind of one of those noise gates that's not in front of the amp, but how they design it, it's in the. It would technically be going into the effects loop.
Okay.
So it just quiets it, and it's only on channel 2.
Does it clip your delay off at all?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Nope. I've never had. At least I don't think I've had any issues with that. It's hard to remember, but typically I'm running a tube amp. I tried the direct thing, but man, when you're trying to get set up so fast on Broadway, we have technically 20 minutes to set up and get going. There's a 30-minute gap from where the last band stops and we start, and they have to get their stuff off. We have to get our stuff on. It's just never been mixed right to me. And when I was running direct, I would have so many people come up in the audience go, "Man, we can barely hear you." I'm like, "Oh, that's great."
Dude, why did every sound guy ever, they went to a training camp and they're like, make sure you turn the guitar players down.
Yeah. You know what's not important?
The vocals
in bands?
are the most important.
It's like, what's not important? Guitar. We don't need them.
Dude, every sound guy. That's part of their training. There's like a weird vendetta.
There's definitely a coalition of anti-guitarism out there. But no, but then even again, some of these venues you're running in-ears and that direct sound is just so harsh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it just doesn't sound warm. It doesn't feel right to me. Then, you end up playing with one ear out and just to kind of hear the room and all this stuff. But
yep.
I kind of found a hybrid for a minute where I was running a UA anti into the power section of my Boss Katana, and it felt really good. But I eventually just went back to the tube amp, and as soon as I plugged it in and just hit that low B on the 7, I'm like, there's the tone.
There it is.
I felt that air just pushing through the speaker. I'm like, oh, this is great. And of course, everybody's going, turn down, which that didn't happen. But,
dude, yeah, it's just so much easier to just plug into a tube amp. Like, I don't know, like, how did guys like Alan, I guess for like an Alan Holdsworth thing, he's like one of my favorites. Like, he's just he's the master tweaker, man. Like, he could dial anything to make it sound good. And I know if you're going for like the slightly overdriven thing, obviously it's always been harder to do that on a digital setup. But nowadays you can do that. But I still think there is this gap that cannot be closed.
No.
With digital stuff. Like there's something about having a speaker on stage next to you that you can hear. You can hear.
Absolutely. And I think digital, when you hear it back on a recording, everything's mixed. You can't tell the difference.
Right.
But when you're playing live, you feel that difference.
You play better.
That was my thing right away. As soon as I got away from more of the digital stuff and I plugged into my tube amp with a couple pedals, I'm like, oh my God, it's like my abilities got nerfed with the digital stuff. It was some sort of like, curse against me, like if we're playing Diablo or something. But as soon as I plugged into the tube amp with a couple pedals, nice delay, I'm like, man, my chops were back. Like my picking just immediately went back to where it was. I'm like, this is bizarre.
Wow.
It was so strange, and I don't know if it was the psychological aspect, like, oh, I know this amp's always sounds good, and maybe I'll just play better. But it's just how everything reacted. I'm like, man, I've been playing some of my best gigs since I've gone back to just what was tried and true.
Yeah.
Which is just a nice tube combo, 112, 40 watts. That's like, what more do you need?
Yeah. Now, I've heard some band leaders down there, they require everybody to go direct.
Yeah.
And now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're looking at the river, on the right side of the street are like more of the rock clubs where it's a lot of like direct, right? More direct rigs. And then the left side is more of honky tonks, like the Roberts and Tootsies, where it's more like live amps. Is that a true thing, or is it a kind of a mixture?
You know, it's funny when you say that. Like, I could see that, but it's mixed up a little bit, and it's not so much the band leaders that require that as it is the clubs.
Yeah,
a lot
like
of the
Jason Aldean's, right? You gotta, dude. I went there 2 weeks ago, man.
Yeah.
To see a buddy of mine play drums, and he's playing an electric kit, which it is what it is. The sound was awful, bro.
Yeah.
It sounded like a blanket was on the whole thing. I could still hear the vocal. The vocal was crisp and clear, but the guitar, like it's like they took it's just a haircut, on the top and the bottom of this guy's guitar sound.
Yeah.
It just sounds so canned.
It's horrible.
And my heart goes out to them because they sounded great. You could tell they were performing well. But I think because that club is more of a dinner service vibe, where it was all families and tourists like sitting down having dinner, pretty much eating a burger or whatever, and then waitress and table service, right?
Yep.
So it was a different kind of vibe than like some of the, I guess you could call them more divey spots, you know. But yeah, what has your experience been playing down there, man? Where do you play, and where do you like to play? Where don't you like to play?
So I'll start with the places I don't like to play. Excuse me. A lot of the TC circuit clubs, like Aldean's.
What is TC?
That's
restaurant group that owns a bunch of them.
That's the group that owns it. It's just because the sound is so awful. I remember doing a couple gigs at Casa Rosa and walking in and listening to the band before, who I know all the guys are all great players, and I'm like at the back of the bar going, couldn't hear it. I'm like
muffled.
And I think what they try and do is it's all about sound control, because they, I guess they don't realize that live music needs to be loud. It needs to be felt, man.
People want to scream drunkenly into their friend's ear. They literally do. That's why they're there.
Yeah, exactly. Which, I think it's one thing that does bum me out about Nashville now is that it is more of a party central and all this stuff. And, where when I first visited, like, I felt like people were here more for the music.
Yeah.
And
it's more corporatized. It's more, music is kind of like an accessory to people's vacation, to a degree. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm glad they still come, because that's how we all make a living here. But it can kind of weigh on you sometimes, especially, we take music so seriously. It's like, man, they don't care about the band. And
yeah.
But then you take a step back, it's like, whatever, let's just have fun and play for us, and they'll like it.
Yeah, man.
But the TC clubs, I'm not a big fan of, just because they do want to control the sound so much, and you can't have an amp on stage. God forbid, It is all direct,
dude,
all
you're
ears.
Such a rebel, bro, for having an amp.
Gotta be. Oh yeah. God forbid. There he is, the guy with the amp. But all my buddies that play down there, they're amp guys. You'll see us wheeling the amps around. It's just like that's. If I see somebody with, even if it's like a nice Fender amp or a Fuchs or something with a bunch of pedals, I'm just like, man, that guy's going to sound great, and he's going to cut.
That guy's going to kill it.
It's like, I don't even know how he plays, man.
A Fuchs amp down on Broadway, I'd be afraid of.
Yeah, my buddy, I don't know if he still does. My buddy Tyler Cannon was bringing a Fuchs down there for a while.
Those are cool.
You go see him, and man, he's cutting through the mix, just sounds great, ripping player. I'm like, then you go to another club, and you see another buddy playing. It's like, I'm going through the, line 6 unit, which is a great unit. It's like, I can't hear him. And another gripe with the TC club, not trying to hate on these guys, but the E-kits.
Oh, it's the worst, dude. I want to literally shoot myself when I see those.
It's horrible. And like, I haven't been on a gig where this happened, but where the kit messes up and all of a sudden it's not triggering right. So it's like
for the whole song, like a cable got unplugged, or it's just not,
or like the pad went down, or like I'm not sure how it works.
You got to restart the system.
Yeah, and then they do that, and then the thing's broken. So now they're playing a 4-hour gig where the floor tom doesn't work, or what's being triggered is the first tom is now a hi hat or something.
Yeah.
Oh my god! And then they'll complain, not the musicians, but the clubs are like, well, it's real expensive to fix. You know what's not expensive to fix? Real drums.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, guys. It's not hard.
You need 4 microphones and a kit, and then the drummers will bring their own cymbals and hardware and stuff. Well, maybe not hardware, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, whatever they need.
They bring a couple things. Drummers, they bring a bag of cymbals, a snare drum, a stick bag, and like I don't know, a backpack, with
maybe a
stuff.
throne or something.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
and the thing too with them wanting to maybe curtail the sound because of the dinner crowd, I can get that. But then you go to a club like Old Red, where it's set up very similar. The stage is the focal point, but there's a lot of tables, people, grubbing and stuff, and live drums, amps on stage.
yeah,
Maybe it's just they pull the sound down, normally.
yeah.
Or maybe the band, knows how to play the room. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like for electric kits, you got to spend like $15,000 to get like a good, like the really nice Roland ones. Like there's different brands that make them, but and it looks like they're buying some nicer kits down there. I'm not, I haven't seen any like Alesis Nitro or whatever. But like the kits they look almost like a real drum kit, but I don't know if I guess they still suck, man. They're just
I just feel bad
fun
for the drummers, man. That
I do too.
They're working, they're trying to make a living, and then they have to go play on that. It's like, oh god, guys.
Yeah.
But hey, the guys that do it, they seem to enjoy it, and from what I've heard, some of those venues are bringing in real kits now for their main stages, so good on them.
Yeah.
So just stop trying to reinvent the wheel, people. Just let us play real stuff.
Yeah.
You'll have more people, the band will sound better, and everybody will be happy. Except maybe the club owners, because it's too loud. But,
yeah. I mean, maybe they're getting complaints like,
maybe.
Hey, I was at your bar, like, and the drums were so freaking loud, I'm never coming back. I don't know, man.
It's funny you mentioned
they
that.
want to make money. Everything is going to be geared towards money.
That's what it's all about. It's funny you mentioned the sound thing though, because when we were playing Johnny Cash's, which is now Show Pony, at the time there was the whole thing on Broadway where the outdoor speakers got removed, which really affected business because now all of a sudden people walking by, maybe if the door was closed, especially during winter, they couldn't hear the band. We didn't have as many people. But Cash's is on, I think it's on 2nd. And they're in a spot where, not quite on Broadway, but they started getting a lot of complaints from people that live down the road that it was too loud. Dude, you moved downtown from California or whatever, It's Music City, bro.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want? So there have been complaints, so maybe that's a thing. I don't know.
When they built Ascend Amphitheater, the outdoor venue, that was like one of the first things that happened. These people bought these condos in downtown Nashville, right?
It's too loud.
Which is not even close to Broadway. Ascend is like on, what is that, Shelby? Like kind of by the Shelby Bridge, right? And they put that Ascend Amphitheater in, and like, it's not like there's a concert every day. It's like there'd be like a 3-hour concert, I guess maybe 2 nights a week, maybe.
Yeah.
But
Friday or something too.
And I don't think they book them during the week. Maybe they do in the summer. I don't know, man. But that was a huge thing, man. They were trying to like push the city to like build a barrier or like lower the volume of the amphitheater. And I'm just like, dude, like,
lower the volume of the amphitheater, put a big volume knob on the side of it. And like I could understand and sympathize with somebody that maybe lived in an area, then all of a sudden this was built. Then it's all this noise, but you moved to Music City, people. You chose that spot near the amphitheater.
Yeah.
Like you were not being pressured to do that. You know, like
sell it. Move somewhere else.
Hey,
Someone
man.
else will buy it.
Yeah, but God, no kidding, especially with how many people live here now. My God.
Yeah, it would
Traffic
sell
is
instantly.
nuts. Oh yeah. Like that.
What are some clubs that you really like to play, man?
JBJ's Bon Jovi spot. That's typically, we're there Friday and Saturdays. Well, not Saturdays, not right now, but that's coming back in a week or two, just winter schedule stuff. Love that spot, love the staff, love the sound guys. And then we're at, if I could talk, Whiskey Row, where you saw us.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
We
Good
just,
spot?
dude,
Yeah.
let me tell you,
You guys were loud as hell there. I loved it, man. It was abrasive. It was awesome.
Cody Staggs is the best sound guy in town. Dear friend of mine, absolute badass at what he does. Knows how to run a band. Our mix is always top. We've worked with him for so long. It's just easy. It's like he knows what we're going for. We know what he's going to go for. But this past gig on Sunday, man, oh my God, it wasn't even a gig. It was warfare. We had so many people. I mean, there must have been 60 people when the place closed. And they're like, get out. We're trying to go home. I mean, it was the great New England crowd. loud as hell, just raucous, man, but loving everything we did.
Like closing the bar down at 2 a.m?
Yeah, we were there till 2:30 on a Sunday.
Last call is what, 1 or 1:30?
Typically 2 there, and
Okay.
we'll go to about 2:15. But these people were just all about. I mean, tipping like mad. I mean, it was. Man, it was.
Dude, East Coast
nuts.
people kind of rule, man.
They do.
They get a bad rap for like being unfriendly, but
Yeah.
like I feel like I think Guthrie Trapp was saying this on Instagram the other day. He's like I think people in New York City are friendlier than in Nashville a lot of the time, and I think he's right, man.
Dude, and I mean, I think it's probably just because there's so many people from different walks of life here now, but I love our best shows. I'll go on record, and my whole entire band will as well. The best crowds we've had have been New England crowds. Every time.
It's
Boston, New York, Jersey, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
they are just here for it. It's like that. Maybe they don't have that up there, and like they come down here, it's like, oh my God, this is so much different. We get all this live music, and this band's just ripping. It's like, I don't know what it is. Something in the water up there, maybe, but great crowds, man.
Yeah.
Super complimentary. Shockingly enough, not rude. Like if Monty's running the room, she doesn't have to typically deal with them. But you get somebody from, wherever else. It's like we've had some crowds before, like from a more reserved state where you're playing, and it's like, do you guys like music? Like, are we okay up here? But they're so much more, reserved, and just, like people from Iowa. We've had a crowd from them recently, and it was like nice people, but man, guys, make some noise. Come on, I'm starting to feel bad up here. Like,
it's as quiet as a church.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's not a library. You can scream, and holler and stuff. And it got a little bit better as the night went on, but it's playing to the room can be a challenge sometimes. We've had some, again, the East Coast crowds where it's like, we couldn't play anything wrong to save our lives. Then we have some where it's like, oh my God, you people don't like anything.
You play like a string of songs, and like people are just like,
And then it's like, anyway, as I was saying, it's like, what is going on over here? It's just trying to figure people out can just be a bigger challenge than playing the actual gig itself.
Yeah.
You can show up and play and do your thing, but ultimately you're there to make the club money and to make yourself money. So knowing which direction, knowing how to read a crowd, that's a skill that, I'll be honest, I'm not the best at, but Monty, our front lady, is like amazing at. Then there's several other people at front bands down there that
she was great, man. She was cutting it up with the crowd, man. Like,
she just
knows
has
how
that
to get people. Like, she knows how to pump them up,
which is great, because you better her than me, because I'm just the awkward, quiet guitar player, that doesn't want to look at the crowd most of the time. I bring the air of mystery, I guess, that's needed. But yeah, that right there is a skill in and of itself that I think there's a lot of people that front bands down there that are just amazing at. They just have that factor,
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So you've got your pedal board, your amp, your guitar. Do you bring 2 guitars down there?
I did for a minute. I had a double bag, but then my back was like, nah, you might want to stop that because it's just so heavy. And then I just ended up playing one the whole night.
And a shift is like 4 hours, right?
Yeah, 3.5, 4 hours, depending
with a break in the middle.
Nope, no breaks.
Play straight through,
unless somebody desperately has to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
We've all been there. It's like, I gotta go, and then it's like, okay, then maybe I'll stay up there and do a song with Monty. Typically, it's Nathan, our keyboard player.
He's got to pee a lot.
Yeah, no. He typically stays up there to accompany her.
Okay.
Sorry, no, I'm the one having to go pee. It's me, Logan, and Drew. So if we're like, Drew's like, I gotta go. So if he leaves and they're gonna do more of an acoustic song, I'll be like, I might want to take advantage of this and just run to the bathroom too, and all of that. But Nathan typically gets the short end of the stick because he's the keyboard player and rhythm guitar player. So he stays up there, and they'll do a song together. Then we're back up going. And that's not every gig though, because if you lose the band, you lose that momentum. If you're playing a bunch of high octane stuff, and all of a sudden you're playing an Alicia Keys song or something, which is great to hear, but it's like can kind of take the wind out of the sails.
Yeah,
people are like, oh man, especially when you go from playing Disturbed, Korn, all this stuff, and it's like all of a sudden, all right, the band has to go to the bathroom. We're gonna do a song.
Do you guys do the outro of Down with the Sickness with the full like mommy screams in there?
Nah, man. In fact, whenever we have a sub,
sorry, bro.
Whenever we have a sub, and we'll be on the talkback saying, okay, it's going to mod up here, but the part where his mom's beating his ass, we don't do that. He's like, okay, good. I don't think anybody does that part, thankfully.
No, and they probably shouldn't.
God, that's such a weird part, man.
I had to learn that for one of those, like, the shows where it's all metal. I think it was Happy New Year or something, like several years ago.
Like a Rare Hair kind of show.
Yeah, kind of like a Rare Hair concert, but it was all new metal stuff, and I had to learn Down with the Sickness.
Hell yeah.
And I had never heard that outro. Like, I was like, because I liked Korn. I didn't listen to Disturbed, really.
Right.
I mean, everyone knows how the song starts.
Sure.
And like the wah-ah-ah part, right?
Yeah.
But, dude, I like cracked up when I heard that. I was like, this was on the recording, bro.
It's like, what were they thinking? This is like the weirdest part ever, Maybe not ever. There's some other weird parts in songs, but you hear it, it's like...
It's just raw emotion.
Yeah.
I guess Korn has a song like that, too, with where Jonathan Davis is like legitimately crying, like in the song or something.
Jeez. Oh, yeah. I forget I remember hearing about that now.
I can't remember what tune that is, but... well, dude, if you don't mind me asking, like, what is the pay like down there? What can people expect to make on a gig playing guitar, like, downtown? Like, give me like maybe a range, like a really good night, a really bad night.
Yeah, no problem. So the clubs have a base pay. It depends on what club you work for. Base pays vary. And so that's kind of like what you're getting just to set up on stage. But then it's really based a lot on tips.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a system where we have QR codes set up, and people scan that and they see our set list, they pick a song, and then they send us the money. So that's been a game changer. But so it's, even though there is a little bit of base pay, there is some kickback from clubs, you're still heavily relied on your tips to really make a solid living. And there's some clubs down there that the base pay is like, guys, it's not 1996 anymore. Time to bump it up a little bit. But
dude, because they're selling a Dixie cup about this big for $20.
Yeah,
a Jack and Coke or whatever.
Oh my God, I
couldn't believe when the chick handed me that freaking drink. I was like, this is tiny, dude. And then it's like $40, for two of them or whatever.
And that's before the tip. And I was just blown away when I went to go see a friend play. I'm like, I'll get a drink, get a beer, a light beer at that. It's $8 for like a Miller. I'm like
$8, yeah, for the cheapest beer. Like, that's actually not bad. That's actually cheaper than I thought.
But still, it's like, wow, man, things have gone up. But going back to your question, because I'm all over the place. But so you have that base pay. You really want to work the crowd to make first and foremost, the club money. That's what's going to keep your gig, and then you want to make yourself some at the end of the day. So typically during, like, let's say a typical busy season Saturday night gig, as a 5-piece band, we're walking away between, we'll try to think average here, probably 500 something a man.
That's pretty good, man.
For 3.5, 4 hours of work, playing music. And now typically, and what helps us there is the base pays a little higher. So, and again, one thing where you might make a little bit better money too is if you're playing as a 4-piece. Or you're doing a trio gig. One of my first gigs downtown, I was playing rockabilly music with a trio at Layla's. I never made less than $400.
Yeah,
because it's a trio.
Different gig.
You have less to split up.
So base pay is like, is it $75? Is it $150? Is it $250?
Depends on the club. So for us, for Bon Jovi's, our base pays $200.
Okay,
that's been an absolute game changer that they did that for us. Whiskey Row is $125. So right out of the gate, I know that Whiskey Row, I'm not going to make as much. Typically. Now, there's been some psycho nights where it's been reversed, but typically anywhere from, I'll say on a busy season gig, anywhere from $300 to $600 a man. So it's somewhere in between there. It just depends on the night. And
what's the most that you've ever made?
Okay, I got a story for you. This one lives in infamy in the band. So we used to play God, what day was it? Was that Tuesdays? We used to play, Tuesdays at Johnny Cash's. Typically pretty slow, but hey, we'd get off early, make a couple bucks. It was kind of like a rehearsal, but we got double booked one night, and we were talking to the band. I said, guys, I'm sorry, hey, we always have this gig. Daniel messed up. I'm sorry, I'm not. And they're like, no, we get it, man. It's all good. And so we're hanging out, and the band before us is playing, and there's a guy at the bar, and he's throwing some money around. I'm like, okay, he's pretty drunk. Hopefully he's like not annoying, because sometimes they get kind of annoying. Imagine that, drunk people being annoying. And I'm like, it'll still be fun, whatever. And we kind of had a different crew, because Monte was out of town. Logan was on the road, I think. Yeah, Logan was on the road with somebody. And so we're setting up going, we'll have some fun tonight. We'll get done early. So this guy that was throwing the money around just won the lottery. And I'm like, what? So
Sick.
He's throwing big money around, and he's a great guy, super nice guy. So I kind of maybe judged him a little, and I felt bad about that. But he's throwing big money at us. I mean, man, I think we all made over $1,000 that night from this guy.
Nice. Dude.
So I walked home. We actually, going back a second, he was at the bar with this guy, and he was wanting to buy the guy a drink, and the guy kind of left and got weird, and we're watching this, and this guy left, and around the corner was waiting to jump him with like 3 or 4 other guys. So what ended up happening is they kind of got hip to it, and the security guy was like,
"It's the same night."
Same night.
Whoa.
So the main security guy's like, "Hey, I'm going to walk you back when it comes time for you to leave." And with the amount of money we ended up making that night, he ended up walking us back to the garage too. He's like, "Let me get my vest." I'm like, geez, I felt really all of a sudden super important, because I have an armed escort going back to the garage. But it was
wow.
That gig lives in infamy. And of course, we almost didn't have it, but because I went up to that other band, I'm like, guys, we always have this gig. Drew, our drummer, was like, thank you for doing that.
Oh, there's another band that was like,
we're double booked.
Setting up.
We were double booked that night.
Wow.
And I was talking to him. I said, guys, we always have this. We've been here for over a year every Tuesday. I'm sure we're supposed to be here. They're like, no, we get it, man. And, they were cool. They weren't, there wasn't any weirdness there. But because I said that, I spoke up and was like, this is our gig. We ended up playing this Tuesday night with this guy who won the lottery. Like, that happens maybe once in a downtown musician's career,
Well, I hope that happens again this summer for you, dude.
Yeah.
I hope it pops off.
Man, I'm thinking it will. Downtown, man, I'm still loving it, but there's so many clubs now. It's getting spread a little thin.
Wow.
There's so many stages, and from what I hear with the new stadium, they want to, I don't know if this is for sure. This isn't breaking news or anything, but I've heard it from a couple people that they're wanting to expand the lower Broadway scene across the river to where the new stadium's going to be. So,
oh my gosh,
right now there's so many stages.
So there's going to be bridge bands.
I jokingly say, I'm like, there's going to be a zip line on top of the Bat Building that Logan's going to be taking to get to his next gig, because he's the busiest guy in town. It's amazing how much that guy works. But again, I don't know if that's a for sure thing, but even right now, there's so many stages, so many bands, and it's kind of, and again, Logan and I talk about this all the time, it's kind of getting to a point where it's almost like Disneyland for adults in some ways, and they're going to go to the newest club
that they heard about. They are opening a Scooby-Doo's or whoever the popular country artist is of the day.
Beyonce. Like, I don't know if she's
Lainey Wilson's been around for like 2 years or something, 3 years, and she's got her own bar. And I don't know. I mean, maybe she's been around for 10 years. Like,
I don't really know much about her, but all I know is a lot of these people license their names and they have nothing involved with it.
Right.
So,
but still, like, it's if your name was on a bar, you would want it to be a cool bar, right? Maybe you wouldn't care. Maybe you just take the check. I don't know.
I'd make it look like Weenie Hut Juniors from SpongeBob, the little cheesy place that looks like a cupcake.
Yeah, dude.
They have metal bands playing in it.
Of course.
But the future of the downtown scene is going to be very interesting. I mean, my band's working on original stuff right now, doing more social media stuff. I just think it's getting spread too thin.
Yeah.
And maybe the newness or not even the newness, but there was definitely a pop in popularity of downtown Nashville post-COVID. Because the city didn't really close down. I think a lot of people were like, hey, let's go to Nashville. And
people just get desperate to get out of their house and do something, man, and feel alive again.
And I think a lot of us experienced that going, oh, my God, this is great. But now it's kind of tapering off somewhere.
Yeah.
And we'll just
leveling out a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, something that I wanted to also mention is, like, have you heard stuff that Trump has been saying about not taxing tips?
Yeah, honestly,
do you think that's going to, like, go through? Like,
I hope. For a lot of people's sakes, especially bartenders,
that would have a massive impact on your life, wouldn't it?
It really would. When it comes to politics, I'm a little in the dark. I kind of avoid some of that stuff just because it kind of messes with me.
And you
mentally.
don't have to endorse Trump here on the show.
Oh, I wouldn't expect that. No.
And I try to on this show avoid politics because it just kind of divides people.
Sure.
But yeah, say whatever you want about it, man. Like,
well, again, if they're going to take away taxation on tips, I'm all for it. Especially people like waitresses, bartenders, us included. But I mean, those people have a really physically demanding job. They have to deal with the public so much more than us, and just for their sake, I hope that it goes through so they're pocketing a little bit more money and living a better life.
Maybe people will even tip more.
Yeah,
they know that. Oh man, this waiter was great, or this waitress was awesome, or
and that's something I always try and do too. It's like, man, if they did great, I want them to make sure that they know it.
It could be just another politician telling us like that this great thing is going to happen, and it never will.
Yeah.
But that would just be iconic if that happened in this country. It would just help the economy, I think, in a big way.
It really would. But I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
That's my
I'm
thing.
the same way, man. It's like, man, I've heard a lot of promises, but I don't know. This Trump is like, he's doing stuff. That's all. He's literally on TV every day talking to the public.
Wild, man.
I haven't. Do you remember a president that's done that?
No, not really. Honestly, it is pretty wild.
It's blowing my mind. And I don't agree with everything he says, but
no,
it's pretty wild to be like, this guy's like taking questions from the crowd. Like, it's pretty wild. But yeah, I really hope that happens, man.
Me too.
Like, the tip thing for guitar players, man. Like, come on, like let's stack some cash, man.
I agree, man. Especially just because the cost of living in Nashville is, oh my God,
it's out of control, man.
And the problem too, because I've talked with people, it's like, oh, New York's expensive, but the wages make up for it.
Right.
Here, it's like down here in Nashville, or maybe the South. I don't know. It's the living cost has gone up so much, but the money stayed the same for a lot of people, not just musicians.
We are paying New York prices, I think.
Mm-hmm.
When you go out to eat too, it's got to be close.
My girlfriend and I we celebrated our second anniversary. We went out and I saw that bill. I was like, ugh. I could swing it okay, but I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
This is,
you go to,
it's gone up.
Like, you ever been to Hall's Chop House?
I've heard of it. I haven't been there,
Dude,
though.
It's legendary. But yeah, you'll walk away with $1,000 bill.
Yeah.
If you order a couple drinks and something to eat, and
that's just insane to me.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
So
I saw him on another. There's like this Nashville drummer guy that has a little podcast, and he interviewed Tyson Leslie, and then he interviewed Logan on a different episode.
Oh, Aaron, yeah.
Do you know that guy? Is he still around here? Or?
Yeah, I've never met him personally. I know the name.
Yeah,
and I know the controversy. I don't have any dog in that fight.
What did that guy do? Can we even talk about it, bro?
So, and again, I'm kind of in the dark with this, but to my understanding, and there's people out there that could probably explain it way better, that he took charts that were free to the public on some of these forums, packaged them, and put them on his site to sell.
Oh.
So and from what I've, you just can't do that.
But isn't that what, okay, so Tyson Leslie is like the chart guy, right? He compiled a bunch of charts, and this other guy you're saying took those,
and not just Tyson, but there's I forget which page it is, but sometimes people will be like, "Hey, does anybody have a chart for this new single or something?" Yeah, I got it. Let me send it to you. And it's stuff that the community does to help each other out.
Yeah,
and to my knowledge, he compiled that, packaged it, and started selling it on his site. So one, it's like you can't really sell that stuff, and two, it's like dude, you just took a bunch of stuff from other people and
Right.
started selling it. To my knowledge, I don't know the full story.
That's what this Aaron guy did. I think it's funny that he interviewed Tyson.
I think Tyson wanted to be on there, from what I heard.
Yeah.
I think he reached out and said, "Hey, I want to do your podcast, and maybe we can talk this over and stuff." And and again, I don't know if that's the full story or the right story.
Well,
but that's
I
just what
watched that podcast, and the whole time I was just like, "What are these guys referring to?" Like they didn't actually say, what was happening.
Right.
But yeah, man, you shouldn't sell other people's stuff. Like, that's pretty low tier activity. I guess it's people's intellectual property. Yeah, I was given like a Dropbox link with like 1 billion charts in it before. Yeah, but I didn't think to sell it online.
No, me either. I think we all ended up with that at one time or another. It's like, oh, this is cool. This will be really, really helpful.
I think Colin Poulton sent it to me.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, man, what other kind of drama can occur down on Broadway, or are you aware of it? Are there people trying to like snipe each other's gigs? Are people trying to sabotage each other? I hate to like get into drama because I don't care, but it makes for a good Shred Sessions episode.
No, absolutely. and I'm sure it is an aspect of it. I haven't really encountered that. Like, yeah, you maybe encounter somebody that maybe isn't having the best day or whatever, but I've never had anybody try and snipe a gig or anything like that. I mean, ultimately it's a really pretty positive community. Yeah. At least maybe the people that I know.
Yeah.
And that's
good to hear.
That's one thing. I keep a small circle, man. I don't let a lot of people in, and I don't associate with everybody. I just, if I hit it off with somebody, we're cool. If I don't, hey, it's all right. I'm not for everybody. Yeah. But in terms of drama and stuff on Broadway, I feel like most of the drama I've seen comes online on some of these discussion pages on Facebook. It's usually complaining about parking, because the parking situation down there is just abysmal. We don't park for free, and we're like, even employees that work at these bars.
Expensive, man.
Thankfully, we get discounts, but it shouldn't. If you work down there, you shouldn't be paying for parking. I don't care what anybody says. Like that's absolutely ridiculous, man. But I feel like that's the main controversy that is going downtown.
Why is it a controversy? Like,
I think just because there's no good spots for musicians or employees to park without having to pay, which that doesn't sit right with me. And these companies make enough money with tourists. I mean,
so the controversy is parking companies versus like the workers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically, that's the point of contention. Okay.
And then there's no street parking anymore that's free. Because I know some guys would, park up the road on the street, and then that's fine. But now it's like, it's ridiculous. There has to just be a better way.
You're not going to Uber. You live 20 minutes away from downtown, right? 15, 20. You live by the lake.
Yeah, I'm by Percy Priest.
Yeah. So it's like that's a $40 thing. Total, maybe $20 there, $20 back. Yep. I would imagine, give or take. So
something like that.
That adds up, man. Comes right out of your base pay. Right?
Yeah, it's insane, man. And thankfully, we do get parking validation from these clubs, but it's like, man, it's
a hassle.
Yeah. And then sometimes, oh, sorry, we don't have any. So now I'm paying X amount to get out from the gate, or sometimes you might lose the parking ticket. You have to hit, I lost my ticket. Boom, a new one comes out. It's $50 to get out of the garage. $50 just to get out.
Have you had to do that a few times?
One time, thank God. Yeah. One time I couldn't find it. Something happened. It fell, and I'm like, where is it? And I'm like, ugh. At that point, it's 2:30 or 3 in the morning. I'm like, I just want to go home, whatever. But it's just, there just has to be a better way. Maybe not. I like to think there's a better way, but maybe there isn't. Maybe that's just the best it's going to be. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I hope they get that figured out, or they create a better situation for the musicians down there.
And it's even like the bartenders and barbacks and security guys and, anybody that works down there is like, they don't have free parking. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, man, have you ever played like a Rare Hair concert?
Yeah.
What is that like?
So stressful. No, I'm just kidding, because it's one song usually, and you want to make sure you can do it really, really well. But ultimately, all joking aside, it's always great. It's like, man, I get to get together with a bunch of friends, meet new people. I mean, Tyson, everybody knows this, but I'll go on record. He hosts the best jam show in town. I mean, it's unbelievable what that guy can put on. But ultimately, it is a little nerve-wracking though, because you get up and play one song. You don't know what the monitors are going to be like, or how loud the amp is, or there's all these factors. But you kind of just go up and I try and just have fun with it. I do my homework, go up there, have fun, then I hang out, listen to everybody else, and it's a blast. Really, it really is.
Yeah, I did something like that with a different company, I guess, or a guy that had a different company. I can't remember the name of it, but he did like a Tool show.
Oh, cool.
That was like all Tool songs, and it was all like local. It was a lot of people in like the metal community, like underground metal, even. And I attended that, and I thought that was really great. And then I played Happy New Year, which was in 2020.
Wow.
Like literally January 2020.
Yeah.
Played that show, played like a Drowning Pool song, played like 2 Korn songs, and then like the Disturbed song, Down with the Sickness. And I wore like a jumpsuit, and like I went all in. I was like, if I'm gonna cover Korn, I'm gonna wear a freaking jumpsuit like they originally did.
It was like a white jumpsuit, right? I think I remember seeing some pictures silly, online. You were playing the Ibanez, right? The 7-string Ibanez.
Yeah, I had the match because I wanted to be like Brian Welsh, like when he first came out onto the scene. So that was fun, man. That was a great experience. It is kind of lame though, like plugging into like a Kemper and everyone there's like your solo button is there and your clean is there. It was very like, because you have to. There's
no way
40 musicians. So who gets the money from those shows? These Rare Hair shows. That's what I'm like, because they don't pay musicians.
No,
right?
To my knowledge,
what is it?
I believe. Most of the time or all the time, it's given to charity.
It's a charity.
Yeah.
Does all the money go to charity?
I don't want to talk out of line with that because I'm not totally
sorry to put you in the hot seat.
No. And I don't think there's anything weird going on. I think maybe if they have some special guests, bigger musicians, they might get a kickback. I don't know. But I'm sure a lot of it goes to the venue fee, Basement East. Most of it goes to the charities. I'm sure it's done as just a communal thing to bring everybody together, raise some money for whatever, and then that's it.
Good. I hope that it is. There was a time.
No,
in Nashville,
I know Tyson real well, and that's
I don't
exactly.
know. I don't know him that well. I was just curious.
Oh yeah. No, you're good.
Because there was a time in Nashville where it was like. Did you work at School of Rock?
No. I drove by one of them when I was going to go teach
I worked
Guitar
at
Center.
School of Rock. It became, and I'm not trying to say that this is what Rare Hair is. Like
no, you're good.
But it was like School of Rock for adults.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I did a couple of shows like that, and I think the sales pitch to me was like, well, I'm going to meet a lot of other musicians.
Yeah.
I'm very introverted, man. I'm
me too.
like, so I was like, okay, meet other musicians. That's cool. You're going to play like 2 or 3 songs. Like, okay, no problem. I can learn some kick-ass songs. And you could, there could be somebody in the audience that needs a guitar player. Like you could link up with with a band.
Yep.
And after doing a few shows like that, none of that stuff really happened. It was it was like really stressful. You're just kind of hanging around half the night to play.
Yeah.
But it's packed out. At least there was a time where those Rare Hair type shows were like all just balls to the walls packed out. And I'm like, and there's a ton of musicians and we don't get any money, which it's like a volunteer thing. I know I'm coming off as being very critical of that thing, but I just didn't want to do it. I was just like, I had been asked to play and come back and play some of those, and I was, and this is not about my ego. Like it's just not what I want to spend my time doing.
Sure, I get that. I totally get that. To me, whenever I end up on those, I kind of know how the night's going to go. I'm just there to see friends.
Yeah, the community aspect of it is the most important thing, and if that's the only thing good that comes from, like, dude, people should do it then.
And that's
it's a great
kind of
way
what
to
it's
meet other musicians.
It is, and that's really what it's about. It's about linking up with the homies that you haven't seen in a minute, and it's just kind of, I mean, I think there is a big aspect in Nashville of just kind of being out there and being seen, depending on what you want to do. Me working downtown, it's doing some of these events. It's I'm kind of just, I'm in the public eye.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Andy. What's up, man? Because it takes me a minute to get out and do stuff. I get very hermit-like sometimes. I'm like, okay, man. I gotta go see a buddy play, or I gotta sign up for this show just for the hell of it, and just to get out, see friends, and then just make sure that people know I still exist.
Right.
That kind of thing.
No, dude. Yeah, and I have the utmost respect for what you do, man. Like,
thank you, man.
Going down there and playing any song, hearing all the changes, improvising solos. Like, I mean, dude, you played like the Crazy Train solo perfect. You played Sweet Child of Mine like perfect. I mean, all of these like classic solos, like you're actually learning the original solo, and that differentiated you from a lot of the players that I've seen down there. So I have the utmost respect for that. It's just I haven't chosen that path as a guitar player, and I've thought about it. I'm like, man, it would be really cool to be down there playing. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and it'd be nice to make some money too.
That's a big aspect, and to me, thank you for the compliments too. For me, that's just like what I'm doing right now. This is just the step I'm at. I'm always working towards something else.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, man.
Sure.
Like, because one of my questions for you is like, do you feel like you're not contributing anything creative to the world of music by being a gigging guy? I mean, that's one of my like criticisms of that world is you're down there, you're playing all these great songs, but you're not really writing or contributing anything to yourself. And I know that there are people out there that do both and do original music and the cover scene. Mm-hmm. But what's been your experience with that, man?
So yeah, that is a little bit of a gripe for me. But with the band I'm in, we kind of rework a lot of stuff. It's like, hey, let's play it in our own way. Yeah. I have an HM2 style pedal on my pedal board.
Sick,
like I got to be the only guy down there that's going to throw a chainsaw sound through a 5150 and play a 7-string. And the cool thing about it is the band they're cool with me doing that. They're not like, oh, you need to do this. And there are certain solos I'll learn note for note, but a lot of it I like doing my own thing. I like playing like me, and like for Sweet Child of Mine, it's like, yeah, you learn most of it, but when it comes time for the fast stuff, do your own thing.
Yeah.
Throw your own thing in there, let it be known that you are your own individual musician.
Yeah.
You're not trying to be just like Slash. There's already a Slash out there, and probably 1,000, like 1 million other people that want to play just like him.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Do your own thing. But going back to your question, though, it's in terms of the creative thing. Yeah, that does weigh on me. I really want to get back into doing more creative stuff, because the cover stuff to me is like, that's what pays the bills, and that's what's going to fund what I really want to do. Fund the band doing original music or whatever it might be. Ultimately, I think we all got into guitar, bass, drums, whatever your instrument is, to be creative. At least in my mind.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like I want to sound like me. I don't want to be like a John Petrucci impersonator or a Zakk Wylde impersonator or something. Have elements of that, but I want it to come out in my own type of music.
Yeah. That's a great answer, man. And I enjoyed watching you play, man. Your playing is really clean.
Oh, thank you,
man. Like, you're really precise, like with your vibrato, and like you've got the legato thing going on too. That's really great. Your picking's excellent.
Thank you.
What's your main axe that you bring out down there these days? I know you had the Schecter green guitar, which is why I made the lights green today.
Thank you. But I should have worn something green. People know me as the green guy, it seems like. The the Sheck, that's the KM, the Keith Merrow guitar with the sustainer in it. Love that one. I will say the only thing I don't care for is the scale length is a little long. I'm not used
27?
to 27. Yeah, 26 and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know a lot of 7 strings are like that.
Seven, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm in standard, so maybe if I was tuning down a little bit more, it would make more sense. But as of right now, my main axe is an Ibanez Universe, the black and green one. Not the original one. If I had that, I would never take it out, but it's the premium one.
Yeah.
Love that,
the
man.
reissue, right?
Yeah, the reissue.
That's a killer guitar, man. Dude, Ibanez necks, like, come on, dude. There is not much better that you can get out there.
No, and Jackson necks are good too, but there's something about the Ibanez, man, that just, I think playing Ibanez was just, like, bred into me because all my favorite guitar players were Ibanez guys.
Yeah.
Paul Gilbert, Vi, Satriani, Shawn Lane, Holdsworth for a minute. Steve Lukather played Ibanez for like 2 seconds in the 80s. So it's like everybody was playing those, man, back in the day. And it seemed like all my favorite players played those guitars.
Bro, have you checked out any Ernie Ball guitars lately?
Yeah, I was
that
was
might
going
have to be my next move, dude.
Man,
they're so good.
I was at GC playing every Music Man Majesty I could get my hands on.
Oh, they're so good.
Oh my God. I immediately fell in love. I'm like, this thing is insane. And I played a couple Cutlasses also. And of course the sales guy came up. He's like, hey, are you gonna buy that? I'm like, no, not today, and just walked off. He looked so dejected. I'm like, bro, this guitar is $5,000.
Yeah.
Come on, not right now. But I just fell in love with those. Music Man's definitely on my radar. Wouldn't mind trying some Kiesels every one. I'd love to check those out one time. I have a love-hate thing with Strandberg. Every once in a while, I'll get a notion in my head going, man, I'd love to have a Strandberg 7 or an 8. And then I'll go play. I'm like, these are really cool. But then I'll play something else. I'm like, maybe not, And nothing against Strandberg. I mean, there's a lot of amazing players that play them. I don't know if they're for me totally, Yeah,
there's definitely an aesthetic barrier that you kind of have to get past. And I think when you first see a Strandberg on stage, there's something a little less badass about it in a way.
I can see that.
It's more of like a, that guy's a scientist,
Yeah.
like that, that guy is really maybe a brainiac or something. Like there's kind of like a vibe that it gives off, but I just think people need to listen with their ears, I love headless guitars, man. They're
me
the
too.
most comfortable, and Strandberg makes the most ergonomic guitar on the market. There's other ones like Klein and
yes.
Have you ever heard of Forshaga guitars?
No, can't say I'm familiar with them.
He's a custom builder. There's just one guy that makes them. They're some of the best ergonomic designs that I've ever played, but they look different, and some people that don't know guitar, well, even other guitar players hate them, but people that don't know guitar, they see that and they might not even recognize it as a guitar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It has that real futuristic look.
It sounds like
to
a
it.
guitar, but it's like, that something's missing here. That's kind of how people think about that sometimes.
And I feel like everybody, when it comes to the headless thing, has always thought that ever since Steinberger back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that thing's a weird looking instrument. That can't be any good.
The paddle. Yeah, the original Steinberger design,
the bass, and all that. And
but
you got to hand it to these guys that really try something different. Like Ola Strandberg, what he did. That to me is like the next step in guitar. It doesn't look like a Strat, doesn't look like a Tele, doesn't look like a Les Paul. It's really his own thing in the neck. So my hat's off to anybody that can be very successful doing their vision.
Yeah, and they are popular too.
Insanely popular.
Like people love them, And I think you have to play one to kind of get what we're talking about here. Like you put the guitar when you're sitting down. First of all, there's two ways that you could hold it. Mm-hmm. I like my guitar up.
Yeah, I like a classical position
when I play, even when I'm sitting down. So there's an option to hold the guitar like that, or you can hold it more horizontally, I guess. Yep. But yeah, I would love one of the Singularity models. Dude.
Yeah,
the Per Nielsen.
Dude,
oh my gosh,
Per's my guy, man. I wanted a Strandberg because I'm like, well, if I get one, I'll play just like him.
That red one, dude. That red and black one, unbelievable.
Would you do the True Temperament?
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not? Then I would just record everything with it and be always in tune.
I heard a funny thing. It was an interview with Per talking about, I think when he was using one with, maybe it was Meshuggah or something, but how his tuning was always slightly off to the other guitar player because of the true temperament.
Really?
Because he was more, I guess, in tune than a standard instrument. Kind of, I'm like, man, I never would have thought of that, but God, that's crazy.
I think it would. Maybe that sounds good. Maybe that's bad. I don't know, man. I got to see him play with Meshuggah when they came to town.
Man.
I saw him at Marathon.
When was that?
This was a while ago. This was not even their newest album cycle, like the one before that.
Wow.
I want to say this would have been like 2018. You could look up when he toured with them. But the solos that man played over the Meshuggah tunes were more intelligent than what you normally hear in a Meshuggah solo. No offense to Friedrich, but
no, he's phenomenal.
I mean, he was putting different harmony in there, and it enhanced the Meshuggah experience for me. And I love every member of that band and always will equally, but it was just it was cool to hear what another what a jazz fusion guy would do in an environment like that, and he killed it. It was just when it went into solo mode, straws pulled at random, it was just like, come on, dude.
Per's the man. I love his improvisation. I think that's one thing that kind of what I love about his playing is in today's world where everything is so worked out, he's an improv guy.
Yeah,
he improvises
perfectly, dude.
And I love his feel. He floats over the time in such a cool way that's not like a guitar player. He sounds like a keyboard player to me. And I mean, to me, he's like got that Holdsworth thing going on, and
it's his own thing, man.
It is.
I love him. He's one of the best modern players, in my opinion.
Tone's always on point, man. An absolute monster. I'd love to actually take a lesson from him, just to get his mindset, just to see what it's like. What are you thinking over this?
Yeah.
You ever not so much a metal guy? Do you know who Alex Hutchings is?
Yeah,
dude.
He's a wild dude.
Total Frank Gambale guy.
Yeah.
But man, you ever see the video where he's doing clinics where he's like, all right, you guys build me a chord progression. And like they just throw out this random stuff and he loops it and then improvises over. I'm like, I hate God,
that guy's a freak, man.
Oh my God. And it's like, to me, he's on that almost that same level as Guthrie. Him, Per, Guthrie all have that thing I love, and that's that improvisation. For me as a guitar player, and this is no disrespect to anybody, because I mean, if you're a guitar player, you're my person. I love it. But in today's day and age, I feel like everything is so worked out, and it's almost too perfect.
Yeah, I've always strayed away from licks.
Yeah.
And I know that like when you're playing like jazz tunes that have a billion chords, it's good to have some like ideas worked out that you can just play over every tune. But I try to just learn the scale. I spent a lot of time with scales, man.
Same.
And maybe that's a bad thing, but I think it makes me sound different than people that just have like, oh, over this chord I play this. Or over this chord I play that. You know?
And then you start like guys that are like that, it's like, oh, that's just an idea that every other person uses, which is okay to bail yourself out. It's like nothing wrong with the pentatonic scale. It's like that's saved us a million times. But I feel like when in doubt, shred the pentatonic. But I feel like if you learn a lot of just jazz lingo, and that's what you regurgitate, there's nothing special. I like the guys that just listen to it and then they just did their own thing with it.
Yeah.
Not to keep bringing him up, but Holdsworth.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that guy, or John McLaughlin, Al Di Meola.
McLaughlin he's out there, man.
Dude.
He's wild. His sense of harmony is pretty unique.
Very
pretty
deep.
Different, man.
Very deep. And his rhythmic playing is just...
Yeah, his picking is out of control, dude.
And then just understanding the Indian rhythms and all that stuff.
It's cool.
Oh my God.
No doubt.
Takadimi. I forget what it's called, but where it's Takadimi, all the different...
Yeah.
Like Konakal or something like that. I don't remember. But I was telling Logan, I'm like, man, Rick Beato's getting all these people. We need John McLaughlin. Rick, get John McLaughlin, please. Because he's like 81.
Yeah, he's getting up there.
But still shreds.
Legend.
It's insane. Insane.
Yeah, I've never
man.
seen him play live. I
Me
really
either.
wish I could. I mean, and he has Gary Husband on keys, who used to drum for Holdsworth. I kind of wish he was drumming for John, but the guy that does drum for MacAlpine these days is fantastic as well.
Yeah. If you have that gig,
Yeah, he's just pocketed. Like, he's so solid. Like, yeah. Recently, I watched Holdsworth, the Leverkusen 2010 video, and it's about an hour. It's like an hour-long concert. You've got Chad Wackerman on drums and Ernest Tibbs on bass.
Wow.
And if you haven't seen that and you like jazz fusion, I mean, he's boring a hole into the universe, like, with his music, man. Amazing. And like his comping too, that was another thing. Like, you hear Holdsworth shred and it's great, or if you hear him do his clean guitar stuff, it's great. But he's comping. Listen to what he does when the bass player's solo.
That's what made me a fan. Was really his chord work.
He's not comping like close voice chords.
No.
It's this and this and this. It's all these wild
It's all
voices.
piano influence.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think that's really what got me with when I first heard Alan. Was I'm like, the lines are cool, and this is as a kid. But when he clicked on the clean sound and played these chords, I'm like, that's a guitar. It's like everybody's reaction. Oh my God. We all freak out when we hear that.
That was highly influential to me, because I heard it and it sounded so pure.
Yep.
It sounded so like just musical that I was like, oh, you can do that with a guitar.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. I want to sound like when you play a chord, every single voice is the same volume.
It's so amazing.
So that technique was really attractive to me, like the using 4 digits when you're comping and stuff.
I think Eric Johnson calls that like the piano technique.
It is, yeah. I really loved it, man. I learned how to play home when I was like 23, and I have these memories of just like sweating with the guitar, be like, these chords are, how is this even possible?
Yeah, exactly, man.
The tab has to be wrong.
God, some of those tab books too.
Yeah.
But he was a big influence. I think the first stuff I saw of him, Alan that is, was the old REH video, where he's playing the build-a-lap guitar and he has the keyboard player.
Yeah.
I probably saw that.
They've got like fake plants in the corner and stuff like that.
It looks like 1993.
Dude, that's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite things ever. Is to put that on.
It's so good.
I'll always love that.
My favorite, and I think I first saw it on as a bonus video from a Frank Gambale video. I was a big Frank fan.
He's incredible,
dude.
His picking is off the charts, bro.
When he was playing, I feel like I could just relate to him because he had the neon yellow Ibanez.
Yeah,
and he's playing fusion. I'm like, this guy kind of looks like a heavy metal guy in some ways, but he's playing some really wild stuff. But that's where I first saw Alan, was on like a bonus feature from a Frank Gambale tape. I'm like, who's this guy? Being 15 or something. I'm like, oh my God, just everything changed at that point. I was like, this is the most insane thing. I almost didn't like it at first because my ear wasn't ready for it. I was such a heavy metal guy, and all of a sudden you hear these extensions and this harmony. It's like, it's almost too much to take in, but you live with it for a bit.
It almost sounds like out of tuned to the untrained ear. But once you like spend some time with it and really like just let it wash over you, like you crave it, bro.
Exactly. Same thing with death metal. When I first heard death metal and like hardcore, I'm like, the hell is this? This is like horrible. But now, under my Nosferatu hoodie, I'm wearing a Cannibal Corpse shirt because I'm like a huge death metal fan. Also,
their stuff is special to me.
and to me, like Death, Chuck Schuldiner got me into that style. So you had that melodic guitar stuff, but then you had the harsher vocals, and doesn't get much better than Chuck Schuldiner. So.
Yeah, he's an icon. He's influenced so many guitar players, man.
Yeah. It's insane.
His music was really unique and special. Well, dude, what's coming up next with you, man? Like, what's on the horizon for the coming weeks and months in your world, man?
So hopefully getting out of slow season gigging a little bit more. I'm starting to post more on Instagram. I'd like to really start building that up, and I'm kind of working on making it better quality, and that'll probably be a minute. Me and my girlfriend are looking at houses right now to move into and all that, but really diving into the social media aspect of stuff and probably teaching a little bit. Not trying to go crazy with it, but I definitely miss teaching. Which, and also on top of that, besides the gigs and all the craziness and stuff, the band is working on original stuff. We just had a really big writing session yesterday, and it's going really, really good. It's nice to hear the creativity and writing with all of them, because they're just so damn good and creative. It's just inspiring.
Yeah.
You know, you get in a room with these guys, and it's like, oh, what's that riff? Oh man, maybe this will go. Oh no, how about this? And it just, the wall just gets built so fast. You know, it's just like boom, boom, boom. Like, oh, now we have a song. You know, so that's been very inspiring to write with the band and hear their creativity coming out. But I'm trying to get a single out in the next few months. So definitely keep an eye on that. And I don't know, man, just kind of taking it a step at a time, just trying to get better at guitar. Also, keep practicing, you know, keep plugging along. And I don't know, just kind of whatever comes my way.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'm wishing the best for you, dude.
Thank you, brother.
And you're an amazing player, man.
Oh, thank you.
Keep at it. Like, if you just keep doing what you're doing, keep posting on social media, post the best stuff you can, like, you'll be just fine, dude.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
You've got a great spirit about you, man.
Thank you, man.
You truly love the craft, man, and I respect the hell out of that. So
I think that's the main thing with people. You got to love the game.
Yeah,
you got to have a love of the game, man, because this guitar it can be brutal sometimes.
It is.
The music industry could be brutal. Oh, if there's an industry, but you know what I'm saying. It's just like the music business, tough.
Yeah.
You got to love music, and you got to love the guitar.
Yeah.
And sometimes you won't, but keep it up, and you'll definitely be rewarded, man.
Yeah. Well, awesome, dude. This was great. I'm so glad we did this,
dude,
man.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
We'll go get some tacos now or something.
That sounds good to me. I'm all for that. I won't say no to food.
Well, thanks for watching, guys. If you aren't subscribed already, please subscribe. Please like this video. Please share it. As many comments as you can drop in the video. It really helps the show grow and reach more people when you engage. So if you heard something that you liked, drop a comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.